for McMahon.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, the Treasurer has expressed a willingness to address excesses in negative gearing. Prime Minister, what are the excesses in negative gearing?
The Leader of the House, the Treasurer. The Treasurer.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Prime Minister for the opportunity to talk about these issues. They've asked us about negative gearing and these policies, Mr Speaker, and it gives me the opportunity to talk about the policies of those opposite, Mr Speaker, because on capital gains tax, Mr Speaker, an increase in the capital gains tax rate of 50%—
The Treasurer will resume his seat. Members will cease interjecting. The member for McMahon on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. On direct relevance, it's also an opportunity for the Treasurer to talk about his own policies, if he had one.
His seat. Now the Treasurer will resume his seat. Treasurer will resume his seat. And members will cease interjecting, including the Leader of the House. No, the Leader of the House will not interject. Whilst the question was a short question, I appreciate that and acknowledge it. As with answers, and some questions contain long preambles, I acknowledge that didn't, but the Treasurer is entitled to have a preamble to his answer, and when the member for McMahon rose, the Treasurer had been on his feet for 12 seconds. So we've got to be a bit practical about these things. Okay, the Treasurer has the call.
As I continue that preamble, let's just understand an increase in capital gains tax of 50% will apply to the following under those opposite: land and buildings, shares in a company and units in a unit trust, rights and options, trust distributions, convertible notes, licences, major capital improvements made to certain land or pre-CGT assets, contractable rights, collectibles, jewellery, artwork, the right to enforce a contractual obligation, foreign currency, interest in a partnership action, an interest in a partnership that is not an interest in a partnership asset, and Bitcoin, Mr Speaker. They want to put a 50% increase on capital gains tax on all of those assets at a time when we're trying to encourage investment in the transition of our economy, Mr Speaker. Their policy is one big fat tax on investment, Mr Speaker.
The Leader of the House does not need to interject. The Manager of Opposition Business would be aware that a point of order has been made on relevance already, and only one is allowed. I'm certainly listening to the Minister, and I will hear from the Manager of Opposition Business, given his position, as I would hear from the Leader of the House.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. In terms of defying your ruling, you made a ruling about the preamble to the answer.
The Manager of Opposition Business will resume his seat. I'm going to hear the Treasurer for the remainder of his answer. I've made clear in my first days of Speaker that provided the answer was on the policy topic, and look, the member for Sydney will not debate the issue with me. She is warned. I'm just simply not going to be interrupted all through question time. What I'm now going to do is just call the Treasurer. I'll respond after he's concluded his answer.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker. And so it is not the government's policy to follow those opposite who believe in higher taxes for higher spending down that path, as they've outlined, to apply a 50% increase in capital gains tax to all of those things, which would be a punishing tax on investment at a time, Mr Speaker, when it's the last thing this country could afford to go down that path. But I'm asked about negative gearing, Mr Speaker. I'm asked about that, and it gives me the opportunity to remind those that what we don't believe on this side is we don't think it's excessive that policemen, that nurses, that paramedics, that school teachers, and that some 2/3 of those who have a taxable income of $80,000 and less invest in negative gearing, Mr Speaker. We don't think that's excessive, but those opposite do. Those opposite do, Mr Speaker. Those opposite think that someone who negatively gears one property claims net interest deductions or net rental losses of around $10,000. They think that's excessive, Mr Speaker, and it must be stopped. They think nurses who are trying to save for their future and small businesses and mums and dads who have gone out there and bought an investment property, they think they're the problem. They think they're the reason why their kids have to pay higher prices for their houses, not because successive Labor governments at a state level contracted places like Sydney and put the shut sign up and stopped the building boom that could have continued in those states when the member for McMahon was serving for that great minister in New South Wales, Minister Carl Scully. That's what they think, Mr Speaker. They think the mum and dad investors of this country are the problem. On this side of the House, we know they're the answer because they're investing in their own future and they're investing in the future of this country. Those opposite just want to tax them silly, Mr Speaker.